Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschata Visatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So everyone is happily situated. Did you get some rest after taking prasad? And the prasad was naturally delicious. And naturally you overate. And that's what Krishna consciousness is. Fun and fun all the way. Anandambudhi Bardhanam. Prabhupada gave us a very wonderful formula. Chant and be happy and dance your way to the spiritual sky. So this morning we discussed about 3 types of chanting, right? Offensive, clearing, and pure. Now how should we chant? Should we chant offenses? At least we have to get rid of the offenses. And so that's the most important thing, to avoid the offenses. And that we will elaborately discuss tomorrow about different offenses and how to try to get rid of them. But we are actually considering, this morning we generally considered Namabhash. Namabhash means the clearing stage. And in the clearing stage, our Namabhash are of 2 types. One is the impression of the holy name, and the other is reflection of the holy name. To begin with, the holy name is Krishna himself. Abhinnatad Nama Namina. And out of these 2 abhashes, that is not, the name is not purely manifest, but there is the shadow or the impression of the holy name. And like the sun is in the sky, but it's covered with cloud. Can you see the sun? But the sun is there. It's only a matter of the cloud being removed. When the cloud shifts away, drifts away, then the sun becomes visible. Another consideration is fog. In the morning, the sun is up, but if there is fog, can you see the sun? But the sun's rays actually destroys the fog. So, whatever is obstructing the perception of the sun, we have to remove that, and that is generally caused by ignorance and material attachment. Ignorance. Due to our ignorance about Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this situation is created. And material attachments. If we maintain our material attachments, then the pure name will not manifest in our hearts. That means we are not being sincere about it. We are chanting the holy name, but we don't really want to have the actual benefit of chanting. So anyway, so let us consider what benefits we derive at this stage. Like, although it is the abhash, but at that stage it destroys all sinful reactions. All sins are destroyed at that stage. Like Haridas Thakur pointed out that not only it destroys the sin, but it, namabhash, at the namabhash stage, one becomes liberated. Liberation is achieved in the namabhash stage. The impersonalist struggles so hard to become liberated. They perform austerities for such a long time, thousands of years they perform austerities. And they merge into, ultimately they merge into Brahma Jyoti. Because they do not have the clear understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and our loving relationship with Him. In spite of so many years of austerities and penances, they simply achieve impersonal merging into Brahma Jyoti. That liberation Krishna gives to the demons who were killed by him. So the liberation that Krishna gives to his enemies, will any devotee ever aspire for that liberation? What Krishna gives to the enemies, why should a devotee desire that? Asura harina hata. When the asuras, demons, are killed by Hari, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they achieve this sajujya mukti, impersonal liberation. But that impersonal liberation is automatically achieved in the namabhash stage. And Haridas Thakur made that point. কোটি জন্মে ব্রহ্মজ্ঞানে যেই মুক্তি নয়, শুধুমাত্র নামাভাসে সেই মুক্তি হয়. The liberation that one cannot achieve after millions of lifetimes of Brahman realization. Just in the clearing stage of chanting, that liberation is achieved. So there was a Brahmana, Gopal Chakravarti, very proud person. Generally people, those who are from high class families, rich and very learned, they tend to become arrogant. We use the expression puffed up. That's in ISKCON lingo. They become puffed up. So this Brahmana actually had a condescending attitude already towards Haridas Thakur. I was thinking that this Musalman, this Muslim guy is giving us advice. So this is another unfortunate thing about. We notice that in India it's another thing that many Indians cannot tolerate that the Western devotees are teaching them what Vedic culture is. Now things are changing a little bit. But I remember in the early days, they just couldn't stomach it. They couldn't tolerate it. Right? And that's why they wouldn't listen. They would just keep on talking. And sometimes I had to tell them, why don't you shut up and listen? And so that's another kind of arrogance. I know everything. Because I'm a Brahmana or because I'm an Indian, I learnt everything from my grandmother. How come these sahibs have to teach me what my culture is? But actually what they have is not the Vedic culture, they have a hodgepodge. Today's India is in a very unfortunate state, isn't it? You all know because most of you are coming from the same background. Fortunately, you came to America and became exposed to Krishna consciousness. If you stayed in India, then you would have stuck to your grandmother's culture. So, Krishna consciousness is not meant for any particular class or sect or religion. Krishna consciousness is meant for every single spirit soul. Especially when one gets the human form of life, one gets an opportunity to receive and understand Krishna consciousness. That is the advantage of the human form of life. In this life, we can become Krishna conscious. Prahlad Maharaj actually instructed that at the age of 5 to his other friends. Kumaram acharit pragya dharman bhagavatan viha. Kumaram. In childhood, one should accept this process of Krishna consciousness. Dharman bhagavatan. This morning we are discussing about dharma. Two types of dharma, the body's dharma and the soul's dharma. The soul's dharma is known as Sanatan dharma or Bhagavat dharma. The dharma, the process that takes one to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. That is Bhagavat dharma. So, that is what Krishna consciousness is. And Krishna consciousness comes in, especially in this particular time. How many of you remember what is that particular time when Krishna consciousness becomes available as it has become available now? How many times in the day of Brahma? When? Okay, I'll give you some clue. How many Manus are there in a day of Brahma? Okay, and in which Manu's time it happened? Seventh. What's the name of seventh Manu? I've got a learned assembly here. Very good. Vaivashata Manu. During the reign of Vaivashata Manu. Okay, how many Chaturjugas comprise of Manu's reign? 71. And in which Manvanta, which Chaturjuga of this Manvanta? 28. When 27 Chaturjugas elapse, and then in Dwapar Yuga of the 28th Manvantar, it happens. At the end of Dwapar Yuga, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, comes. And coming here, what does Krishna reveal? Krishna reveals his Braja Leela, his Vrindavan pastimes. What's so special about Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes? Anyone? What is the difference between Vaikuntha and Vrindavan? Yeah, you want to say? Yeah, very good. But what kind of relationship? Intimate relationship. What are those intimate relationships? Wonderful. Now I have a real exalted audience. So, that is, these are the three relationships who are of extremely intimate nature. Friendship. Becoming friends of the Supreme Personality of God. How will you feel if Obama becomes your friend? Huh? Anyway, you may shake your head, but I know. Meaning, someone very great. If you develop your friendship, if you get an opportunity to meet Obama, will you want to accept this opportunity? Right? So what to speak of when he says, when you go and meet him and you say, "Oh, my friend, what can I do for you?" You know, we had been friends for so many years. Now consider if you get the Supreme Personality of Godhead as your friend, how will you feel? You are fond of your children. Mothers and fathers are fond of their children. If you get the Supreme Personality of Godhead as your child, how will you feel? Huh? And those who are unmarried young girls, if you get Krishna as your boyfriend, how will you feel? Okay, that opportunity is open also to married young girls. That opportunity is open to everyone. Every spirit soul. Actually, these are the most intimate relationships, and of these three relationships, which one is most intimate? Madhurya, conjugal relationship with Krishna. So these relationships are revealed in Krishna's Braja Leela. But in order to enable his devotees to develop these relationships, Krishna had to do something very special. You know what Krishna had to do? Krishna had to stop becoming the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because a devotee otherwise could not deal Krishna or treat Krishna as a friend. Treat Krishna as the son. Treat Krishna as the lover. Therefore, Krishna made an arrangement through Yogamaya that the devotees forgot that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, mind you, this forgetfulness is not out of ignorance. This forgetfulness is out of love. See, if your brother becomes the state president, will you treat him like the state president? He's your brother. So it's not that you do not know that he is the state president, but you don't treat him like that due to your loving relationships. So in Vrindavan, that's what happens. Due to their intense love for Krishna, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. It is not that they do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to them it doesn't really matter that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because their love for that loving relationship prevails that consideration. Their attitude is, you may be the Supreme Personality of God, so what? Or even if you are not a Supreme Personality of Godhead, I would have loved you the same way as I love you. So your being Supreme Personality of Godhead doesn't matter. Isn't that love? In loving relationship, we don't care what is the position of that person. That intimacy. And due to that intimacy, they treat Krishna in a special way. And Krishna loves it. Krishna wants it. Krishna enjoys when his friend forces his way onto his back. Sometimes there is a wrestling bout, and in that wrestling bout, the condition is that the loser has to carry the winner on his back. And in that wrestling bout, Krishna loses. And his friend demands, Krishna, now you have to carry me on your back. Krishna refuses. No, I won't carry you. Come on, Krishna, you have been defeated. That was the condition. No, I didn't lose. You cheated on me. I slipped on that banana peel, and then you jumped on me and claimed that you won. Then the friend says, where is the banana peel, Krishna? Come on. Everyone here saw after such a lot of struggle I defeated you. Saying that, the friend forces his way onto Krishna's back. Now the consideration is, which devotee will dare to go to the altar and put his foot on Krishna's body? Will any devotee ever dare to do that? No. But in Vrindavan they do that. Why? Because they, due to the influence of Yogamaya, they forget, they don't have that consideration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their feeling is, you are my friend. Similarly, the father says, Krishna, can you bring my shoes? And little Krishna puts his shoes on his head and carries it to his father. Mother Jashoda with a stick runs after Krishna to chastise him. Whoever will dare to do that to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is why in Vrindavan, Krishna is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is a cowherd boy. So you can say the paradox, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everywhere else he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in Vrindavan he is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is a cowherd boy. But his activities are inconceivable. He is killing the demons. Not only during our things we will describe also how amazing Krishna's pastimes were. Jarasandha attacked Mathura with 23 Akshauhini soldiers. 23 Akshauhini soldiers. Mind you, the total number of soldiers in the battle of Kurukshetra was 18 Akshauhini. 11 on Kaurava side and 7 on Pandava side. Together their total was 18. Whereas Jarasandha came with 23 Akshauhini soldiers. And he attacked Mathura. And in Mathura they had a small little army. Because after Kamsa was killed, all his people left. Only a handful of soldiers remained. And Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna wiped out the 23 Akshauhini soldiers. Only Jarasandha was left. Balaram was about to kill Jarasandha. Krishna says, no, don't do that. He's going to do some service for us. He will bring all these demons to us and we'll slaughter them. So Jarasandha was actually Krishna's recruiting agents. He was recruiting the demons to be brought to Krishna to be killed. So, so this is how we can see how inconceivable Krishna's potency is. Now, to annihilate 23 Akshohini, is it a big deal for Krishna? Who can just by his glance create the entire material nature? For him to wipe out 23 Akshohini is nothing. But he performs these pastimes so that we can comprehend that. With our tiny little brains, we can somehow comprehend that. Like when it comes to Krishna's glance creating this material, entire material creation, Krishna lying in in causal ocean and each bubble is an universe, we cannot really comprehend that. But this we can comprehend. Krishna playing with Chanur and Mushti, wrestling with Chanur and Mushti, Krishna and Balaram. This Krishna is only 12 years old, 11 years old at that time. And Chanur and Mushti are two giants. Can you imagine there is a giant and there is a little boy? They are supposed to wrestle. This we can comprehend, isn't it? And Krishna did tell Chanur that what kind of match it is. The wrestling actually takes place between the equals. And this we are just some village boys, we tend cows and we wrestle with our friends, and here we have to fight with two giants, the professional wrestlers who had never been defeated. The only person that Chanur and Mushtik had been defeated was by Kamsa. That's why they accepted the subordination of Kamsa. Otherwise nobody could defeat them. So Kamsa was confident that Chanur and Mushtik will be able to kill Krishna and Balaram. But Chanur then told a very nice, very wise word. You may look like a child, but you are not a child. Your activities are not like that of a child. The bow that the most powerful kings, most powerful Kshatriyas couldn't even lift, you easily lifted it with your left hand, strung the bow and broke it. And you say you're a child? Come on, give me a break. That was Chanur's point. And that's what happened. When Krishna and Balaram started to fight with them, they fought for a while. For Krishna's pastimes has two aspects. One is entertainment. He entertains himself and he entertains his devotees. So everyone was watching and they were so excited the way Krishna was fighting, and they were in excitement, they're jumping. Krishna, give him, kill him. And then finally Krishna kills him. Balaram kills Mushtika and Krishna killed Chanur. So in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his pastimes displays his inconceivable potency. Do you remember that line? Iti driksha lilabhir ananda kunde shaghoshang nimajjantam akkhappayantam. Iti drik, in this way, swa lilabhir, through his pastimes, saghoshang, his devotees, nimajjantam, drowns, ananda kunde, in a pool of ecstasy. We are just hankering for a drop of ecstasy. Can you imagine what it is like to be drowned in a pool of ecstasy? So that is what Krishna does to his devotees through his pastimes. That's one aspect, entertainment, and the other aspect is education. Through his pastimes, Krishna teaches everyone who he is and what is the benefit in being subordinate to him. Through his pastimes, Krishna shows us. You become a devotee of Krishna, what will happen? You go against Krishna, what will happen? And the choice is very natural. If the choice is given to you, whether you want to become Arjun or Duryodhana, what will be the natural choice? Arjun. Nowadays, of course, things are changing. Nowadays, people are actually showing that Duryodhana was such a great person. Ravan was such a great person. There was a Bengali poet who actually wrote a poetry, very famous poet, Michael Madhusudan Datta, who became a Christian and wrote an epic glorifying Meghnad, the son of Ravan. He is portraying Meghnad as the hero and Lakshman as a villain, Ramchandra as a villain. So you can see how the demoniac culture changes the natural conclusions. I mean, in general, I have seen in India, even the demons don't want to become Duryodhana. They all want to side with, or they want to be like Arjuna. So, so this is how Krishna, through his pastimes, makes us understand the benefit of becoming a devotee. The benefit of becoming a devotee is that we are protected by Krishna, and even in this world we enjoy due to Krishna's mercy, and our next life becomes glorious by his mercy. So anyway, to go back to the point, what are the benefits of Namabhash? Not even the clear chanting. All the sins are taken care of. Sins are destroyed. And when all the sins and unwanted things are far away, then the pure holy name dances on the tip of the tongue. So pure chanting is not actually like we are chanting. It is like the holy name dancing on our tongue. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes it very beautifully through a poetry, which was the concluding poetry of Sharanagati chapter. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that হৃদয় হইতে বলে জিহ্বার অগ্রেতে চলে শব্দরূপে নাচে অনুক্ষণ. The holy name rises from the depth of the heart. The holy name rises. It's not that we, with an effort, are chanting. The holy name himself rises and appearing at the tip of the tongue begins to dance. So the uttering of the holy name, chanting of the holy name is actually the holy name dancing on our tongue. And then he is describing what is happening. When the Kanthe Mor Bhangeshwar, when the holy name is rising from the heart, depth of the heart to the tongue, coming to the region of the throat, it cracks our voice. Kanthe Mor Bhangeshwar. Ango kape thor, my body begins to tremble. Sthir hoite na pare charan. My legs cannot become steady anymore. So in this way, it says that that rising of the holy name to the tongue and coming to the tongue, it is causing all these, which is known as ecstatic symptoms in the body. There are 8 kinds of ecstatic symptoms. As we also sing in the morning, Romancha Kampashu Tarango Bhaju. The hair stand, Romancha means due to ecstasy when hair stands on end. Kampa, body begins to tremble. Ashru, tears begins to flow. So these are the symptoms of ecstasy. That is when the heart is filled with this, when the heart is experiencing this ecstasy, the manifestation of that ecstasy in the body appears in this way. As he is saying, the choking of the voice or cracking of the voice. Body begins to tremble. The tears begins to flow from the eyes. So this is how the holy name makes us give the spiritual experience which eventually leads us to Krishna. In that poetry, Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually is mentioning, explaining it. He is saying that this holy name, Premer Kolika Nam. Kolika means a bud. The holy name is the bud of Krishna Prem. And Ishat Bikoshi Puno, that bud opening a little, Dakhai Nijo Rupa Guna. Just when that bud of Krishna Prem in the form of holy name opens up a little bit, if you consider it to be a bud, then bud develops into a flower. So when the bud just begins to bloom, little bit opening, it shows Krishna's form and Krishna's qualities. Dakhai Nijo Rupa Guna. Chitta Hari Loy Krishna Pash. Stealing my consciousness, it takes it to Krishna. So you see that Krishna consciousness, we can see that due to pure chanting it will automatically happen. It is not that we have to separately, extraneously make an endeavor. It will happen on its own. Premer Kolika Nam, Adbhuta Rashiro Dham. It is the reservoir. It is the resting place of all the transcendental mellows. And just opening a little this bud shows me Krishna's form and Krishna's qualities. Now see, when you see Krishna, what will naturally happen? What does Krishna mean? Krishna means all attractive. So when you become exposed to Krishna, When you see Krishna's form, how can you not be attracted to him? And when you become attracted to him, where your consciousness will be? Chitta Hari, as if stealing my consciousness, stealing my heart, it takes it to Krishna. And Purna Bikoshito Hoya, and when this bud of the holy name fully blooms, Purna Bikoshito Hoya, Broje More Jai Loya, takes me to Vrindavan. And offers me my actual spiritual identity. Purna Bikoshito Hoya, Broje More Jai Loya. I'm forgetting the line. That actually means that this is how one achieves one's spiritual perfection. Anyway, tomorrow we'll discuss this poetry because that is the concluding factor of this chapter. Today I just briefly mentioned that. So now to go back to Namabhash. So Namabhash is, if it is compared to a fog, which is obscuring the sun, obstructing the sun, covering the sun. So what is that? That is covering our perception of Krishna, is our ignorance and our material attachments. Attachments to undesirable things. Whereas the holy name shining like the sun destroys the darkness of ignorance. If ignorance is darkness, when the sun comes up, can there be any room for darkness? So similarly, when pure chanting happens, then this darkness of ignorance automatically disappears. And then Haridas Thakur is pointing out what actually causes that. When the soul does not understand the spiritual nature of the holy name, the fog of ignorance brings darkness. When the soul doesn't understand the spiritual nature of the holy name. What is the spiritual nature of the holy name? Very simple. The spiritual nature of the holy name is that holy name is Krishna. So this is the thing that we have to constantly remind ourselves, that what we are chanting is non-different from Krishna. This sound vibration is non-different from Krishna. It's Krishna himself. And that is actually Maya, forgetfulness of Krishna. And the simple understanding is that when a spirit soul does not understand his spiritual identity, meaning as long as one identifies himself with the body, forgetting his spiritual identity, he remains under the influence of Maya. Or you can say here, Haridas Thakur is saying he takes shelter of Maya. A person who is oblivious of his spiritual identity takes shelter of Maya. And he remains in ignorance. But what is the soul's real identity? The real identity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. Krishna is the master and the living entities are his servants. That is the actual understanding. Krishna is the master and the souls are his servants. The living entities are his servants. Now the Haridas Thakur is explaining how can one become free from Namabhash. Namabhash stage also, we don't want to be there in that state. We want to come out of that Namabhash state. So the simple point is, as long as one doesn't understand his relationship with Krishna, he will remain in Namabhash state. However, if an individual soul takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and becomes expert in devotional service, the clouds of anartha flee from him. So the beginning of the spiritual life comes with this consideration. The coming across a bona fide spiritual master. And who is a bona fide spiritual master? Bona fide spiritual master is a devotee. Anyone who carries the message of pure devotion to Krishna is a bona fide spiritual master. The spiritual masters fall in two categories, Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru. So Diksha Guru is the one who gives Diksha or who gives initiation, and through initiation he gives the mantra. But here also another consideration, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra doesn't depend upon Diksha. We have seen in ISKCON, to qualify for Diksha one has to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So this is how we can see that Hare Krishna Mahamantra, other mantras you can't get unless you get it from a bona fide spiritual master through the process of Diksha. But that's not the case with Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna Mahamantra doesn't depend upon the custom or formality of Diksha. Then the consideration is, then why in ISKCON we have this system of initiation? The answer to that is that the Diksha has two aspects, receiving the mantra, and the other aspect is surrendering to Krishna through his representative. Official surrender. So, mantra is not the consideration so much, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself gave it, he gave it to anyone and everyone. But for the sake of officially surrendering oneself, one needs to take Diksha, or formally surrenders himself to Krishna through his representative. Diksha kale shishya kare atma samarpan, সেই কালে কৃষ্ণ তারে করে আত্মসমর্পণ. At the time of initiation, disciple surrenders himself, আত্মসমর্পণ. সেই কালে কৃষ্ণ তারে করে আত্মসমর্পণ. At the time, Krishna accepts him. So anyway, that is the custom of Diksha, but the important aspect is actually Shiksha. The purpose of Diksha and Shiksha is something like, Diksha is getting admission and Shiksha is attending the classes and learning the subject. So if you get admitted to an university, is that enough? No, you are getting the opportunity to study under the guidance of qualified teachers. So the main purpose of admission is to study, learn the subject. And in this way, therefore it is said that Diksha Guru is one, but Shiksha Gurus can be many. Shiksha Gurus can be many. Starting from Bhatma Pradarshak Guru. Bhatma means path. Pradarshak means indicator, shower. The one who shows the path. One who actually brings us to Krishna consciousness. According to the Vaishnava understanding, he is a guru. But this Bhatma Pradarshak Guru also fall in the category of Shiksha Guru. And the whole culture is actually based on guru-disciple relationship. The more we will advance, more the concept of a guru will broaden. Just as a neophyte thinks that only that Krishna is God and he is the only devotee. Do you know that? The definition of the neophyte devotee? Kanishta Adhikari. Archayam eva haraye pujanga saddhaye hate. Natad bhakteshu channeshu sabhakta prakrita smita. Archayam eva haraye, he worships Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shraddhaye hate, with respect, with faith. But natad bhakteshu channeshu, he doesn't recognize the other devotees and the innocent and the offenders. That is, he considers that he is the only devotee. He is a Kanishta Adhikari. So, just as a Kanishta Adhikari thinks that Krishna is God and I am the only devotee, so in Kanishta Adhikar platform one also thinks that my Diksha Guru is the only Guru and no one else is important. His only consideration is his Diksha Guru, no other consideration. Natad bhakteshu channeshu. But as one makes spiritual advancement, that's also good. Like that at least he has come to the platform of devotion. But gradually if he doesn't commit Vaishnava aparadh, he will continue to make advancement. And that advancement will expand his concept of Guru. And finally what will be the, like Kanishta, from Kanishta to Madhyam, what is the symptom of a Madhyamadikar? Madhyamadikari devotee, he recognizes other devotees. He recognizes the innocent and he recognizes the offenders. So his perception broadens. And accordingly he develops his attitude towards them. Towards the devotees, he develops friendship. Towards the innocent, he develops compassion. And to the offenders, he develops disregard. But then he makes further advancement and he becomes a Uttamadhikari, the first class devotee. You can put it this way, third class, second class, first class. What is the attitude of a first class devotee? He sees everybody as pure devotee and he thinks that only he couldn't become a devotee. Sarva bhuteshu ja pasyet bhagavad bhavam atmana. He is seeing Bhagavad Bhav in everyone, Sarva Bhuteshu. Just like, again, Haridas Thakur. He's saying, Purisher kit hoite muishel obhisto, jagai madhai hoite muishe papisto. That I am more fallen than Jagai and Madhai, and I am more lowly than the stool of more fallen than stool. I'm sorry, the worm in a stool. So this is, and now Haridas Thakur is feeling that. Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, an intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is saying, Banchitoshmi, Banchitoshmi, Banchitoshmi na samshaya. Vishya Gaura Rashi Magnang Sparshamopi Mang now bhavet. I have been deprived, I have been deprived, I have been deprived. The whole world has been inundated by Krishna prema, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But I could not even get a touch of it. Mahaprabhu's most intimate associate is feeling that way. So in this way you can see that the spiritual progress works in a reverse order. The neophyte devotee thinks that he is the only devotee. And Uttamadhikari thinks that he couldn't even become a devotee. Whereas everybody else is a devotee. That's why Prabhupada said that Uttamadhikari cannot preach. He cannot preach. How will he preach? If he sees that everybody has become devotees, pure devotees, only he couldn't become a devotee, how could he possibly preach? Therefore, Uttamadhikari has to come down to the Madhyamadhikari to preach. Just as Srila Prabhupada did. So, so this is how, by receiving proper guidance from a bona fide spiritual master, one becomes free from this namabhash state. What is causing the namabhash? Let's go back again to that point. What is causing namabhash? Namabhash is caused by ignorance. That ignorance of Krishna's identity and his relationship. Now what does the spiritual master teach? Who is Krishna and what's your relationship with Krishna? And at the same time, spiritual master, rather in a subtle way, teaches you not to be attached to the material things. So these are two things. One thing is avidya and the other thing is anartha. Ignorance and material attachment. So this is the responsibility of the spiritual master. To give you the proper understanding of Krishna and free you from your unnecessary material attachments. He situates you with the proper understanding, and that's how he actually removes your ignorance and frees you from anartha. So when ignorance and anarthas are gone, what was causing the namabhash? Ignorance and anarthas were causing the namabhash. So now if those two are removed, then what happens? Pure name. Then you get the pure name, pure holy name of the Lord, and that pure name gives Krishna prema. So tomorrow we'll discuss about these two things. One is, what does the pure name do? And the other is offenses. So the offenses and how to get rid of the offenses, and what is the reward of pure chanting of the holy name. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Now I'll open up the session for question answers.